A very good morning to all the viewers and listeners. I am Brajeshwar Sharma, Senior Advisor HR and IR of IVA. On behalf of IVA, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you and also to Ms. Paromita Iyer and Mr. Atul Malhotra, the Regional Managers of National Insurance Company Limited, who would be responding to our queries. We have collected the queries from member banks and will seek response from these senior functionaries of insurance company, which had accepted the task of servicing the country's largest health insurance policy. Before I venture into my endeavor, I would like to extend a very warm welcome and greetings to our Deputy Chief Executive, Sri Gopal Bhagat sir, and will request him to deliver the inaugural address.
Thank you, Sharmaji. Thank you very much. And good morning to all viewers and representatives of NICL. We have Ms. Paromita Iyer and Mr. Atul Malhotra with us, regional managers. And friends, as you know, this insurance policy is for retirees, especially, there are some observations, some feedback, some queries always there. So with a view to address those queries and to clarify the doubts which we have got on operations also, and at times we have some grievances. So we collected feedback from all the banks. We had communicated to all the banks to send their observations and feedback and pain points. We have collected all those points, and it turns out to be around 50 questions, in fact, which we have got. And we requested NICL executives to come here and discuss with us on all these points. So today we will be talking about all the observations which we have received and the queries or the new developments which NICL is proposing to do over a period of time. That also will be discussed. And please continue to give us your feedback. It will help us in making improvements in the operations of the policy, as well as correcting certain things which sometime we might have overlooked. So with this, I will not take much time. I will request our senior colleague, Shri Brajeshwar Sharmaji, to begin the interactive session on this insurance policy for bank retirees and their family members. So over to you, Sharmaji. I think we can start now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We had conducted a similar knowledge sharing webinar on 13th of October 2022 with the support of NICL, in which these dignitaries had responded to the queries initiated from the member banks. This was well received and well appreciated also. Enthused by this success, we decided to organize one more similar webinar for the benefit of the members as a sequel to the earlier one. Before I get into the Q&A session, I will request the two dignitaries, the two executives from NICL to present a PowerPoint through which they can showcase what NICL had been doing for this, for servicing this policy. Over to you.
Good morning.
We can approve the
bankers fraternity, who have been our biggest clients and a big support group for National Insurance endeavor to service the insured public. So as we on behalf of National Insurance, I, along with my colleague, Mr. Atul Malhotra, I welcome all of you to this webinar, which has been so thoughtfully organized by the IBA management. And we do hope that today's session will help us to dispel a lot of queries and anxieties that are plaguing all of you and that have been, I would say, pain points. And I hope that towards the end of this session, all of us will come together to a certain level of understanding where we do understand your problems and the challenges that you face. And I hope we will be able to tell you what we are doing and how we are doing. And if there are certain unpleasant decisions, so we will be able to tell you that why exactly those decisions are being taken. Okay, it is, but let me just clarify that it is certainly not our lookout or our endeavor to create any kind of difficulties for our very esteemed insured group, which is the largest one in this country. But there are certain restrictions of the policy terms and conditions which may not be to the liking of all the bankers and esteemed insured public. Thank you. So we start with the PPT.
Can we go to next slide?
As we have been maintaining all the time, this is the biggest group mediclaim policy under one umbrella, IBA policies. And this is providing health coverage to more than 26 lakh lives. So this is a brief overview of the type of policies and the number of people who are covered. Employee-based policy, there are 23 banks and one IBA management policy. So that is 24 number of policies. The number of primary members is 5,83,321. Dependents that are covered are 15,38,300. Total lives covered under the employees-based policy is 21,21,621. Employees top up 14 banks and of course IBA, they have opted for the top up policies. 29,017 primary members are enrolled along with their 92,802 dependents. Total lives covered under the employees top up policy is 1,21,819. Retirees with domiciliary, 22 banks have opted for this. Retirees from 22 banks have opted for with domiciliary policies, 954 primary members along with their 581 dependents. Total 1,535 lives are covered. Retiree without domiciliary are 30 policies, 1,51,852 retirees along with their 1,21,877 dependents. Total lives covered are 2,73,729. Retirees top up, 30 banks have opted for this. 76,341 members along with their 60,221 dependents have enrolled for this facility. 1,36,562 lives total are covered under the retirees top up policy. Total 120 policies we have issued. Head count is 8,41,485. Actually, there is an overlap in the employees base and top up, and retirees with domiciliary, with domiciliary and top up. But okay, under all the policies covered, we are servicing 26,55,266 lives.
Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. In this year's policy, we have got 8 TPAs to cater to the IBA policies based on the request received from most of the bank HR of the banks that they wanted one bank and one TPA. So the number of the TPAs were reduced from 11 to 8 in this policy, which were there earlier. 11 were there in the previous policy. Based on that, the 8 TPAs have been allotted different banks. Like Ericsson has been given Bank of India, IBA Association, Bank of Maharashtra, and PNB Paribas. Accordingly, Heritage was allotted Punjab National Bank, SBI, LHO Chandigarh, and J&K Bank. HITPA was given Union Bank of India. MediAssist was allotted Indian Bank, Catholic Syrian Bank, Dhanlakshmi Bank, and Kotak Mahindra Bank. Same way, SAFE was given South Indian Bank, Karnataka Bank, UCO Bank, Federal Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Karur Vyasa Bank. FHPL was given Bank of Baroda, Citibank, RBL, and SBI LHO Jaipur. Same way, MT India was allotted with Bank of America, Central Bank of India, Punjab and Sindh Bank, Nainital Bank, Standard Chartered Bank. Raksha was given Canara Bank, SBI LHO Amravati, SBI LHO Bengaluru, SBI LHO Tiruvananthapuram. While there was some delay in aligning of the TPA for the 22-23 policies, we maintained that the cashless claim for that period of the October 22 was seamlessly catered by the TPA who were servicing the banks earlier.
There have been a constant request for increase of the cashless network across India by all banks, their individual members and retirees associations. So we'd just like to inform you that ever since National has taken this policy in 2021, total 5,790 hospitals have been added in these two and a half years by the in the IBA policy network by our various TPAs. Heritage had, in the beginning of this current year's policy, they had 7,887 hospitals under their cashless network, and which has risen to 8,293. HITPA had 6,765, which has risen to 7,865. MD India had 10,155, which has risen to 10,692. MediAssist had 9,289, which stands at 10,840 as on date. Safeway had 8,041, which has risen to 8,768. Raksha had 7,253, which has risen to 7,467. FHPL had 8,186, which has now risen to 8,568. Ericsson had 10,828 in their network, which now stands at 11,701. And I would like to add that apart from these network hospitals, on case-to-case basis in emergency situation, the TPAs have included, on the basis of very basic documents, they have on the spot given cashless authorization in case of emergency situation like road traffic accident, cardiac arrest, or even high-risk pregnancies. And NICL has continued to honor those one-off requests by paying to the hospital within the time limit that we had promised to them, so that, and those TPAs have then gone ahead and included, based on our prompt services, the TPAs have been able to include those very hospitals also immediately in the network within very limited time.
Friend, as the cashless is a very important factor in this policy, our endeavor from the day one has been to increase the cashless percentage. We know the bank fraternity always wants the best of the treatment, and when they don't have to give out anything from their own pocket. Our endeavor has made this policy more effective and more cashless prone. Accordingly, we would like to share with you on an average, the proportion of cashless claims based only on the IPD claims has been higher than 60%, the general average. The cashless of the TPAs are given out here. Heritage had 67%, HITPA had 66%, MD India had 64%, Madi assisted 70%, Safeway had 71%, Raksha had 59%, FHPL had 57%, Ericsson had 59%. And still we are telling our TPS, and we have been trying to get this increased. Our target is to achieve 70 to 75% target to have the cashless in this policy.
There have been a lot of queries and anxieties over the turnaround time for cashless processing, and also processing of the reimbursement claims. We know that sometimes on some one-off cases or maybe a few cases, there has been a delay due to various factors. But overall, we would just like to present the current situation. The average cashless processing time is around 70 minutes, which is consistently less than 120 minutes, which is the stipulated as per the MOU across all TPAs. And the turnaround time for reimbursement claims from the date of receipt of last documents is 4 to 5 days. And if we go by the individual statistics of the TPAs, then Heritage takes about 45 minutes. HITPA is taking about 60 minutes. MD India on an like overall it is 120 minutes. MediAssist is also maintaining 120 minutes. Safeway 50 minutes. Raksha is again 40 minutes. FHPL, this is for cashless authorization. FHPL is about 100 minutes and Ericsson is somewhere around 75 minutes. This is the average. This should not be taken as the benchmark. The turnaround time for reimbursement claims, Heritage is taking about 7 days from the receipt of last document to uploading for settlement in our file, in our system. HITPA takes about 4 days. MD India takes about 3.5 days. MediAssist is taking 5 days. Safeway is taking 6 days. Raksha 5 days. FHPL it is between 2 and 3 days. And Ericsson again is at 4 days.
The incurred claim ratio in this year for 22-23 in 120 policies is inching towards breaking even. Utilization in employee policies heavily impact the outgo. As per policy type in employee base, the ICR, which is gross ICR, which includes the incurred but not reported claims and the TPFC. In employee base, it is 89.39%. In employees top up, it is 76.13%. In retirees with domiciliary, it is 110.84%. And retirees without domiciliary, it is 403.69%. And retirees top up, it is 102.92. If we club out the all, we are close to 96.25%.
Thank you. That will be all for as far as the PPT is concerned. Now we are ready to respond to the queries that have been received by IBA management. Over to
Thank you. Thank you, Paromita ma'am and Atulji, for beautifully presenting what NICL had been doing for the betterment of this policy. And some of the efforts that you have exhibited right now can definitely be lauded, like increasing the cashless, then the turnaround time. There is always a room for improvement, and we'll request you, it can be further improved if it was possible. So just briefly, I'll touch upon this policy has its origin in the 10th bipartite settlement joint note that was signed on 25th May 2015, wherein a group medical insurance scheme in lieu of hospitalization expenses reimbursement scheme for serving employees and dependent family member was signed between the Apex unions and IBA on behalf of the banks management. Since then, this policy is being continuously arranged every year well in time by following a transparent process through RFP without involvement of any agency. In today's webinar, we have requested, as you know, the senior executives from NICL to respond to the queries which we have received through various modes. We have collected, collated, and requested them to respond one by one. We will read out all the queries sent by the retiree community and the banks and request Madam Iyer and Mr. Malhotra to respond. Gentlemen, the recordings of this live streaming shall be available on YouTube, which may be used as a reference by the retirees who could not join right now. Thanks. And now I'll start posing some comfortable, some not so comfortable questions to the representatives of NICL. Ma'am, the first question from our member bank is that the network hospital for all TPAs may be clubbed so that the beneficiaries can avail cashless treatments at hospitals, which will be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders, that is beneficiaries, TPAs, and insurance and bank.
Sharma sir, thank you. Before I reply to this question, I would just say that please rest assured, IBA policies, the members, the banking fraternity, the retirees, all of you are very precious to us, and our team, National Insurance, we are totally committed to serving you to the best of our abilities. And so far as questions are concerned, we are ready to take the rough with the smooth.
Thank you.
So, okay. The idea of having a club together network of all the TPAs is a very good idea, but different TPAs negotiate their packages with network hospitals depending on their own footfall or requirement in a particular geography. which I would explain because the TPAs are servicing not only IBA policies but also other policies. So they negotiate the packages with particular hospitals depending on their own footfall for all the policies put together, which gives them a greater bargaining power. And so that's why there might be a bit of a difference in the strength of network and also the packaging rates. But this is certainly a very good idea, and this possibility can be explored further, provided all TPAs agree to come to the board. We will certainly put this idea to them, but it has to be a mutually agreed decision. Thank you, sir.
The next question is regarding the premium amount that has been consistently rising substantially and making the policy increasingly unaffordable for both the employees as well as the retirees. That is another question from one of the member banks. We'll request Mr. Malhotra.
Sir, the premium under this policy has been determined on the basis of the claims experience of the previous policy. That has to be taken consideration, and the medical inflation is another factor. This being a RFP policy, tailor-made policy, the claim experience is very vital in deciding the premium calculation for the subsequent year.
Okay. Another similar question. Individual policies available in the market have higher sum insured with lower premiums. So how can you explain the layman about this? Because they had been comparing the policies from the market. How can you explain this anomaly?
So pricing of each individual product as well as the IBA policy, it is all based on the coverage that is provided by that particular policy, the sum insured, what is opted for, or the sum insured range that it offers, and as well as the past experience in that entire segment. For individual policies, it is the entire segment of that kind of policies which counts, and for group policies, it is the particular policy, how it has been behaving in the last 1 year or maybe in the past 3 years. So those things are taken into consideration when we fix the pricing. Thank you, sir.
Okay. The next question is related to the change of the TPAs. And last year we had in this policy, we had experienced that for a brief period there was a confusion which TPA is going to be serving of which bank. So how this confusion or this misunderstanding can be resolved? A similar question has been put forward by one of the member banks that the regular change of TPAs has hampered the medical services offered to the beneficiaries at large due to teething issues, change of process, systems followed by the incoming TPAs. So that is one thing that we'll request you to have addressed in future also, but how we are going to respond to this query?
Your point has been very well noted. We agree and apologize for all the inconvenience caused in delay our change. We will try to take care of it at the time of renewal. Actually, the appointment of TPA depends upon the tender condition and principle of equitable distribution of work as per the performance of the TPA in the previous policy and based on their infrastructure which is available with that.
Okay, thank you.
But this time there was the delay.
Yeah.
So there was inconvenience. So
Yeah. There was a month's delay.
months delay. And this issue was highlighted. We had taken it up with the higher authorities also. Somehow there were some systemic issues, I think, where it could be resolved ultimately. And I think this will not happen again.
No, sir. Our board has also actually, we are a board-driven company and there were certain decisions which our board had to step in. So that's why there was a delay, but we have also conveyed to our higher management for further conveying to the board that with such a large group, such delays should not happen because it creates a lot of anxiety for the insured and a lot of challenges for the servicing office. So we are sure that this year nothing such.
Thank you. Another query. At times, our patient face difficulty on visit to the network hospital. That is, the said hospital is not having tie-up arrangement with the servicing TPA. So how you are going to resolve this issue so that this type of situation doesn't arise in future?
So we agree that such situation has arisen at the initial stages of this policy, 22-23 policy, because there was a drastic change in the overhaul in the entire TPS setup. But anyway, as on date, we have taken feedback from all the TPAs. We have been following up with them. So the current TPAs have addressed this issue to a large extent. I think within 3 months of the 3 or maybe 4 months of the policy, wherever there were hospitals which were in the previous TPS hospital and they didn't have in the network, they have gone out of their way and they have included those TPAs, those network providers in their own network. And in cases, as I explained earlier, in case of emergency, they have been, even if the negotiations were not yet completed, but on case-to-case basis, they have extended cashless facility. But I do agree that there had been some challenges in the early stages of the policy, but I'm sure that it has been addressed by now. And in case there are still some creases to be smoothened out, we'll certainly do it.
Good. So it means, madam, we are open to emergency kind of situations.
Yes, sir.
So our policy holders can approach TPS.
Yes, sir.
And whenever there is such need. So these things are also being looked at and due help will be provided.
Yes, sir. Whenever there is an escalation, Mr. Malhotra or I, we are immediately responding to them. And if required, we are giving our own commitment at our own level that the payment will be released within a certain date we fix. And we see to it that the payment is released to the hospital so that the hospital also feels assured in coming to our network.
Yeah, for future services
Yes,
also they can.
yes, sir.
So that's quite a humane side of servicing the policy. That's good. Another query is related to the turnaround time for reimbursement of claims that should be followed. And some of the member banks might have experienced some inordinate delay in the payment results into the hardships of the employees as well as the retirees.
We have access to most of the TPAs are processing the claim as per the TAD prescribed and referring it to the insurance company for payment. But there may be certain cases where there may be inordinate delay in doing that one. But actual TAD is from the receipt of the last query reply. That is a very important thing because we have asked the TPAs to update their positions with the respective insured and the HR of the respective banks also.
So can we discuss some of the deficiencies, which you would have seen because of which the reimbursement is delayed? Like, are there some common list of, do we have such a question here? Common issues like mistakes which our insured people commit while filing the claim?
Mainly, sir, there are deficiencies in documents or clarification required from the treating doctor. Sometimes the receipts are not there. So once all the documents are received at the TPA, they do the processing and issue a query letter. The moment all queries are not replied in parts or it's given in piecemeal, the moment everything is given out on the receipt of the last query reply, then the TAD period actually commences. We have asked the TPAs to educate the insured about it, and we are maintaining an eye on it. And more or less, initially there were problems because of change of the TPA, but now things are improved, sir.
So can we, list down all those deficiencies which are observed by the TPAs or the NICL so that it can be a guiding factor for other insured people in future?
Sure, sir.
So they can go through that and they can avoid those kind of mistakes which they are committing.
So general type of deficiencies we can just share with you.
Yeah. So we can put it on the website.
Sure, sir.
It will be beneficial for all the policyholders.
Earlier also we had shared one FAQ, I think, which has been posted. So there also a list is there. If required, we can always we are certainly open to giving another guiding, maybe a list which will help.
Thank
yes.
you. Regarding
policies, sometimes maybe in some other policy or with some other insurer which the TPA is servicing, there might be some delay in payments. It is not always pertaining to only IBA policy. There might be the hospital might have experienced some challenges, some delay in release of payment. And as you know, hospitals these days are driven by only profit objective. So what happens that if that payment through a particular TPA, irrespective of the insurer, there might be a delay. So sometimes the hospital says कि हमको पैसा time से नहीं मिलता है, so I want a security deposit. So anyway, but we have advised all the TPAs to take up this issue with their network hospitals and ensure that the payments are released so that, they process the claims fast so that it reaches us within a reasonable time. We release the payment so that the hospital does not deny any of our esteemed insured people a cashless service without any security deposit, which is very important. And in case any such case comes to our notice, where the person has to shell out a hefty amount for security deposit, we do address the issue and we try to resolve it as fast as possible.
Resolution of old pending claims with regard to Safeway TPA. That is a specific question, wherein the buffer amount has remained unutilized due to indifferent attitude of the TPA and genuine claims are pending for reopening. That is a sort of a targeted question for a particular TPA that requires a specific response and
We have
resolution.
taken up this matter with the concerned TPA and we are vigorously following it up. And very soon this is going to be resolved, sir.
The original documents are not returned even after vigorous follow-up. That is one question from member bank. After even the settlement also.
So basically, as per the terms and conditions of the policy of the basic guidelines of health insurance, I would say, the TPS can return the documents of rejected claims, and we are maintaining that the TPS raise queries to us, and we tell them that please go ahead and return the documents wherever the claims have been rejected. But for the claims which have been paid, other than the diagnostic reports, as a matter of principle, we do not return the claims because there is a chance, I'm not talking about the banking fraternity, but overall, there is a chance that the same original documents can be again presented to another insurer for making a illegitimate or inadmissible claim, which is otherwise inadmissible. And in case and here I would just clarify that in case there are two policies and one person has received part payment under IBA policy and wants to get the balance payment from under any other policy other than IBA, then in that case we issue, the TPA issues a certified copy of the claim documents that the original has been deposited with us. We have verified, and then these are the verified copies which the other insurer is bound to admit.
The next question is not targeted towards you, it's targeted towards IBA. And the query is regarding definition of the aspect of family income, inclusion and exclusions. So I will respond and will say that it definitely, this policy, since it originates from the bipartite, so the provisions of the bipartite, the inclusions and exclusions, the definition of the family, the eligibility criteria of the dependents, everything emanates from the bipartite itself. So the point will definitely be noted for discussion in the next bipartite. But as of now, we'll have to abide by the provisions of the extant bipartite itself. Next question is regarding the inadequacy of the network hospitals.
Sir, this is from a particular, the bank who has raised, so I will just, and for other banks also, the network hospital empanelment is a dynamic process and it keeps getting enhanced because the TPAs are constantly on lookout for eligible network providers who fall within the definition of IRDA, which is the standard definition given by IRDA. So those who tick all those boxes are eligible for empanelment. The TPAs are constantly on lookout, and to service better, they keep on empaneling. For this particular bank, I would just like to elaborate that 650 hospitals have been added in the last 4 to 5 months in the 6 months of servicing by this particular TPA. And as of now, that particular TPA's network stands at 8,768. And this is a continuous exercise, so please do not get disheartened. As per your request, and if there are more than 5 or 6 claims coming from one particular hospital for the TPA, they immediately get into action and try to negotiate a package and bring them under the network. And for PPN cities, the empanelment is directly done by the GIPSA PPN committee in each city. And currently, GIPSA is also trying to expand the scope of PPN, and about 10 new cities in the entire country, 12 new cities in the entire country are also have been included, and vigorous exercise is going on. So in coming time, you will find a much more wider network for your facility. Thank you.
The next is regarding disallowing legitimate claims, highlighting the PPN package literacy.
So all deductions are done as per the policy term and conditions. The deduction against PPN package in PPN hospital are as per policy clause number 2.31, which clearly mentions and states that the hospital, nursing home, or healthcare providers and listed by an insurer or by a TPA, an insurer together to provide medical services to an insured on payment by a cashless facility. The list of such network hospital is maintained by and available with all the TPAs, and the same is subject to amendment from time to time.
Regarding disallowing non-medical items which are necessitated as part of the treatments. Suppose a doctor has suggested certain line of treatment, but still it has been claimed that some non-medical items which has been necessitated is being disallowed while settling the claim. So how you are going to respond to that?
Sir, all deductions for the non-medical items are done within the ambit of the policy terms and conditions. The deductions on account of non-payable items are done strictly as per the Annexure 1, which is attached to the policy and which has been circulated to all banks and which is available to the entire banking fraternity. And only those are to be borne by the insured. Other than that, whatever can be subsumed under the admissible heads are being paid. We are seeing to it that no one is unduly or unjustifiably inconvenienced. Thank you, sir.
Regarding delayed processing of claims for reimbursement cashless.
The majority of the claims are being processed and settled as per the TAT, barring those where we found some deficiency in documentation.
Do you give any idea, like out of 100 claims, in terms of percentage, how many claims are settled within the assured turnaround time? And in how many cases the payments are reimbursed? The period exceeds the assured turnaround time.
The actual TAT is from the date of the receipt of the last query. Majority of the claims are settled within that period, whatever TAT is specified in the policy term and condition.
About 80 to 85%.
80 to 85% are within that one, barring few where the deficiency of documents are there, unless otherwise the documents are not submitted by the insured. Processing is incomplete. There may be some delay. Once they receive the last query reply and all that, they maintain the TAT.
Sometimes there are cases where due to some deficiency in the bank account details, or maybe in retirees' cases, it happens many a times that they might have closed the account which has been given in their record. Or there might be a change in IFSC code or something. So in those cases, what happens that even if when we have released the payment, then it becomes void. Then again, we have to follow up with through the TPA or even directly with the retiree to get fresh bank account details and then upload. So there are some cases, about 5% cases of delay are also due to that factor.
So it means what I can gather is that, of course, there are cases of delay, number
Yes,
one.
sir.
Number two, but there are reasons which are in the hands of insured people also. So if they follow the process properly and if they give correct information and all the documents, receipts
At once, one go.
in one go,
Yes.
then it can be helpful. Like
Yes,
in such cases where the payment is made, but because there is some mistake in the IFSC code or the account number, then again it is delayed.
Yes, sir.
So let us all try to keep such instances at the lowest level. Number two, my request will be that when you send papers to the TPAs, please take very good photographs, photocopies of those papers for your record. At times, there have been instances where original papers are lost. So in such cases, such things, photocopies can be of immense use. But I will request NICL and I will request banks also, if they can explore possibilities of, having some electronic way of submission of claims and the papers, so that the transition time is reduced to 0. And number two, the record will be created about the sending, the papers are submitted.
Certainly, sir. We are
So,
very explored. We are
please.
open to the idea, maybe up to a certain level, the smaller ticket size claims. We can look into the option of soft copy submission. And for the bigger claims, of course, we will need the original documents also, because there will be complications.
So some threshold limit you can
Yes, sir.
think of, below that, and the claims can be reimbursed based on the soft copy. And my request to the banks, those who are participating will be, please explore if you can extend the facility of HRMS, to the retirees also, whether they can submit their claim to HRMS. In that case, there will be a proper record of submission of claim, and the turnaround time will be, established. So we'll be able to monitor it from our end itself. And then we can take up the deficiencies in the processes or the submission of papers for setting right.
I think that seems to be a very good idea. The two things that originates from this discussion: number one, that careful submission of the documents by the insured person, by the claimant, and secondly, if we start using the technology for submitting the documents, that is going to monitor the turnaround time as well as can take care of the delay also.
Sure.
So the question number 5, next question is regarding delay in the settlement of pre-post hospitalization claims pertaining to the month of October 2022. So that was, I think, the transition period in which it happened. So
once again, we really apologize on behalf of our organization for the challenges or the inconvenience that was caused in the month of October. However, all admissible reimbursement claims pertaining to the period between 1st October 22 to 31st of October 22 have been settled by now, provided all documents have been submitted to the TPA. So I think 97-98% of the claims have been settled, barring maybe very few where there would be a genuine maybe deficiency of document. Thanks.
The next question, I think, relates to declining the claims without valid reasons that has been responded in the past also. I will just jump on to the next query. It's the 7th one: insisting for initial investigation report for domiciliary claims over and above the certificate prescription issued by the treating doctor.
The investigation supporting the diagnosis and its confirmation as per coverage under domiciliary disease list is a mandatory document. Just to work out on the claim admissibility. It's a one-time query only and is raised within the merit of the policy term and condition, as this document is required to justify the claim and it is in the support of the claim.
The next one is regarding the interpretation of the policy conditions. So I don't think there should be any ambiguity in the policy conditions. So why this confusion regarding interpretation? So can you respond it?
Sir, what I think this might have arisen due to change in TPAs. Sometimes in some cases, very few, because all the TPAs are well versed in the terms and conditions of this policy, and in fact all the TPAs on board as of now had been servicing this policy even under the previous insurer, and there have hardly been any changes, maybe apart from inclusion of a few medical advancement cases. There's been the basic structure of the policy has remained same over the years since inception in 2015. So all the TPAs are well versed in their terms and conditions. In case of any confusion or misinterpretation, we are always there. We do step in, Mr. Malhotra and I, we are responding to the queries of the banks, the TPAs, and wherever required, we are giving our policy directions in writing so that there is no confusion among anyone.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Great. The next query is regarding the TPA. TPA is deducting nearly 50% on the claim amount, stating the reason as per the PPN package or reasonable and customary charges, but the guidelines are not clearly stated in the policy. That seems to be slightly a heartburn. I have come across some instances wherein similar complaints have been made.
Actually, all claims are settled as per the policy term and condition without any prejudice. I would like to add out here that the IBA policy clause number 2.31, which gives details about the PPN, and 2.44 about reasonable and customary charges is the primary clause. And these clauses have been taken from the 10th bipartite settlement only. TPS have been advised to process the claims on merit as per these clauses always.
Now, for cashless treatment, unnecessary queries are being raised and process gets delayed.
Sir, as we have in the PPT also, we have explained that the turnaround time for cashless now is on an average 70 minutes, which is much lower than the mandated 120 minutes. But however, the queries are raised by the TPS sometimes because sometimes the network providers are not giving them the entire picture or the proper documents which are required for authorization at one go. So they are compelled to raise queries just to ensure that whether the hospitalization is justified, the cashless request, the amount which is being requested is justified, whether it is too less or too more. It can be either way. Sometimes for a very sophisticated surgery or procedure also, the hospital might be raising a request for a lower amount. So the hospital but the TPA, from their own experience, they do raise query that do you think that this 30,000 is enough? Where the initial request should have been 1,20,000 or something.
Okay.
So those are the things. Sometimes they try to see that whether the hospital is trying to make a fast money out of the policy, that the claim which can be the treatment which can be covered under OPD basis only is being converted into an inpatient treatment, just so that the patient will be getting the treatment as it is. But the hospital might be trying to take advantage of the policy and unnecessarily converting a domiciliary or OPD case into an OPD case.
So our efforts should be, our endeavor should be
Yes,
that the beneficiaries should, or benefits should be passed on to the
Sure, sir.
insured person rather than to the hospital.
Exactly. So that is the reason
Yeah.
that sometimes these queries are raised.
Madam Mayor, can you throw
Yes,
some
sir.
light on the statistics? Like in how many cases of cashless treatment these are stayed through? Like we say some X percentage of cases, the claims are settled without any query, and a particular delta amount only the queries are being raised. We have some.
Actually,
Sir,
it is not amount specific. The moment the hospital is sharing all the documents with the TPA, if all the documents are in order, they immediately
No,
give
I'm not asking about the amount. I'm telling about the cases.
Yes,
Suppose
about
if
90
you are
to 95% cases, I would safely say that the cashless authorization of cashless and discharge of the patient, it goes off very smoothly, because as I told you that if the documentation or the clarifications are in place at one go, then the
So
entire
you say
process is
in
very
case of
smooth.
92% cases,
Yes.
you say that the things are smooth
Yes, sir.
and payments are made without raising
Yes,
any
sir.
query.
Yes, sir.
And in 8% cases, such instances
Yeah,
are happening.
maximum. That is
Maximum.
8% is a very generous proportion, I would say.
If you compare this number with the industry average, like on an average in industry with your other policies, is it the normal number or?
Yes, sir. It is no. I think in other cases it might be 4 to 5% less. It might be because in IBA policies, since we really hold our insured in high esteem, and the TPS also, because it gives a lot of mileage to them also, that we are servicing the IBA policy and these are the benchmarks that we are achieving. So that adds to their own performance evaluation. So they also try to extend their best, and we are also constantly at their back to see that no one is inconvenienced beyond a reasonable reason.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next two queries I will skip because it's related to the release and delay, and you have already responded. So I'll just jump over to the non-response by the TP and the National Insurance Company. One of the esteemed member banks has said that their calls or queries are not attended by TPA as the insurance company. How you are going to respond?
We have already shared the escalation metrics of the TPA as well as of the insurance company with all the respective banks and their HRs. We are regularly meeting the HR of the banks also, and in every monthly monitoring with the TPA, we keep an eye on it that how many times they have met the bank's HR. So we ensure that the TPA is seen regularly in interacting with the HR of the respective bank. There may be any specific call or so. If there is anything that escalation should reach us, we are always there to intervene and resolve out any type of issue.
Okay. So my request to the bank executives will be that you can reach out to Madam Paromita Iyer or Mr. Atul Malhotra. So they are always dedicated for this policy. So please don't hesitate to contact them. They will be in a position to help out, in all cases. So, to a large extent, these things can be taken care of.
Sir, and I would add that it's not only Mr. Malhotra and me, but our underwriting team, our claims team, they are also equally accessible, and many of the banks are in regular touch with them for release of payment or issuance of endorsements, additions. Wherever there is a glitch, sometimes they call them more than they call us. But anyway, certainly yes, if there are any calls that have gone unanswered, apologies for the same.
Well, that's great. But I will request once again to share the escalation matrix of both the TPAs as well as the insurance company with the HR department so that they can use it properly. The next is a direct brickbat from one of the member banks, and a very specific complaint is being quoted. The employees and retirees are being harassed. In the recent case, one of our retired general manager had intimated 10 days before hospitalization, but cashless approval was delayed by raising query, provide the picture of bursitis. Subsequently, due to non-approval, the hospital denied treatment to the member. So that's a very pointed complaint. Please respond.
Sir, in this particular case, we had taken up with the TPA. So what they say that initially no investigation supporting the diagnosis. There was a cashless request raised for treatment of bursitis. But on the repeated query, there was no diagnosis which was confirming that this is the ailment for which the treatment, this is the condition for which the treatment is being taken. So that's why at the end they said that, okay, send us a picture. Of this condition, or whatever we may say. Okay. But anyway, then the cashless was not denied, only like it got a bit delayed. Subsequently, the cashless was approved. The person has taken treatment and the entire thing has been settled to the satisfaction of all.
So it was sort of a win-win situation thereafter.
Yes,
and
yes,
the customer was happy there.
We do apologize that there might have been initial heartburn because due to a communication gap only, I would say.
Thank you. The next question is regarding again that the bank had been paying hefty premium towards the medical insurance scheme, but the staff and retirees have been denied cashless treatment, rejection, partial payment of the claim, no proper response for our queries and complaints. So I think you have time and again responded to. The only suggestion from our side would be to further streamline and strengthen the redressal mechanism so that the grievances are addressed in time. I will not get into the details. It's not the details, it's general complaints regarding delay in redressal and rejection on flimsy grounds. So these things are required to be strengthened and addressed properly. Area-wise approximate PPN, non-PPN package rates to be provided for treatments.
So the package rate for PPN and non-PPN vary from one hospital to another, one city to another. and which are reviewed and renewed from time to time. The TPA can be approached for any support on these things, on any of the packages or procedure. They have been guiding out the members very efficiently and on time-bound basis. This is a good suggestion. The members banks HR may have a meeting with the TPA and can take out the details of these PPA and hospitals and share the procedure cost with their members also.
You can in turn suggest the TPAs also to get in touch with the member banks proactively and discuss the issues, this particular matter bilaterally also. The next query again is related to the complaints from the retirees regarding delay. You have already responded. I will not repeat this query again. I will jump over to the next query. The previous year policy claims are still pending at Mrs. FHPL TPA. That is a specific targeted.
I would like to respond here. The matter has already been taken up with FHPL because we have been following up the TPAs for settlement of pending claims of the previous year's policy because it is a matter of servicing the policy as well as it reflects very badly on our performance also if we have too many policies. Too many claims pending over 90 days. So we have been following up, and I believe that this has been largely resolved. Maybe only one or two very extreme cases might be still pending. That also, I think, will get resolved by the end of this day. But rest of them are all resolved. Thank you.
I think such cases should be brought to the notice of Mathuraji or Madam Iyer.
Yes.
Request to the banks also.
Yes.
Please don't hesitate to contact them. And for such cases, extreme cases, I think we need to have their attention immediately on.
I'll put on record that Mr. Malhotra, he takes from our own dashboard, he takes out the list of pending claims age-wise, and then he goes after the TPAs on regular basis. And from January to March, I would say that almost every week he was taking out the list. And depending on the aging of the claims, he had been very vigorously following up. So thanks to his efforts, the claims have been resolved. So I hope the matter does not really pertain as of now.
Okay, good. Thank you. The next query is related to the previous year buffer claims, and I'll respond. Don't worry about that, because the reallocation of buffer has been done very recently. So after this reallocation, I think the matter definitely will be taken up by NICL with the FHPL and will be resolved because of the reallocation which has been done recently. This is going to be resolved.
Next. Is it so that it is because of the claims were to be settled out of the buffer?
Yes.
That there was a delay in settlement?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That the reallocation, because the matching the data
it takes time. Yeah.
Was
reallocation of
yes.
buffer takes
there was a
time.
challenge on that.
Yeah. So you have to go back to the banks and
Yes.
see their position and take their concurrence
Yes.
before reallocation of buffer.
And since these claims are partly paid, the balance only whatever the quantum bank HR has to allot from the corporate buffer, only that much thing has been left out.
Correct.
So this more than 3 months cases which we were discussing, was it because of this buffer?
Yes, sir.
That
Yes,
may
sir.
be one of it.
Many of them would be because of that.
Okay.
Thank you. The next is again related to the network hospitals for cashless treatment, and the suggestion is that it should be increased. You have through the PPT PowerPoint presentation, you have showcased that the network hospitals are being added every year and every month. The suggestion is that there should be more additions, more and more additions.
Sir, as we explained, it is a continuous exercise, and TPAs are engaging it on month basis. And in fact, we are also taking a stock at the end of every month that how many hospitals they have added and how many are under negotiation. So we are sure that will be. It is getting done actually.
I would also like to add, in case if the bank's HR feels that some specified hospitals which are not there in network should be included, we will instruct all the TPAs to pay visits specifically for this reason to the respective bank's HR. So bank's HR can share the name and the list of the hospital for which the TPA may be asked to enroll, and we will monitor the enrollment of those network hospitals.
That's a very positive gesture on your part, Mr. Malhotra. That should be the endeavor.
Yeah. I think then in that case, we'll expect banks to take initiative and be in touch with the insurance company so that these new hospitals can also be taken into network. Madam, just one more query on this network. Is there any incentive to TPAs for including more hospitals in the network? Does it help them or?
Sir, actually, we have we have an annual exercise of evaluating the performance of the TPAs, and this is one of the major parameters. Apart from how well they are managing, how fast they are processing the claims, how they are weeding out the unnecessary things, and apart from that, the network strength is one of the major parameters. So, like monetary incentive, there is nothing, but of course, it adds up to their evaluation parameters. So they score well. Hire the network hospital, and how effective is that network? It's not only the numbers, how effective is that network? So based on that, they do get higher marks.
So it is their performance parameter.
Yes, it is a performance.
So actually, if this is brought to their notice, I think two things I can mention here. One, you mentioned earlier also that if there are 3, 4, 5 claims from a hospital which is not in the network, then TPA itself, they go and try to include them in the network. And second is, if they have more hospitals in their network, it improves their performance.
Yes,
so they become a
preferred positive impact on
performance. So they will also like to increase the number of hospitals.
That's great. Another suggestion for the insurance company. A dedicated person from insurance company to be allotted to each bank so that the claims, payments, endorsements related issues will be communicated at single point of contact. We can expect a resolution of the same. We had faced difficulty in contacting the officials from the insurance company directly. So a dedicated resource to be allocated for a bank. So that's going to ease their
suggestion well taken. We have already had an escalation matrix which we have shared with all the member banks, and we will do it again also. Our team is always available to resolve all the issues, and till date, the aspect mentioned here is relating to the underwriting. I would like to share on this platform that as on date, most of the documents received from the banks have been answered. All endorsements have been issued, barring the last week data which we have got from the respective bank.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. Next query is related to the rejection of the claims, and they have suggested few cases were rejected with the reason hospitalization is not required for the said admission. Usually, treating doctor advises the patient for admission based on his health conditions. Hence, said admissions should be taken into consideration by checking the nature of illness and injury involved. Suggestion is that the doctor's advice should be taken as one of the important parameters rather than deciding on its own that it's not required or it's required, something like that. Hospitalization. So how you are going to?
Sir, I agree that the treating doctor's advice is of the paramount importance. But I would also like to reassure that at no point the TPA, it is not their job, and they do not interfere in the line of treatment prescribed by the attending medical practitioner. But as TPA, they have to see the medical aspect of a claim as well as scrutinize the case as per the policy terms and conditions, just to see that to consider the purpose of hospitalization. As I explained earlier, sometimes they do see that whether the amount that is being asked for for cashless is justified or not. Because sometimes the TPAs the hospitals do tend to, overstate the expense, or sometimes there might be an understatement. And another thing they have to be very vigilant about is that conversion of IPD treatment, OPD treatment into IPD treatment. These are the things, and sometimes what happens, the hospitals try to encash on the length of stay basis. For a particular standardized procedure, if from their, because the TPAs also have doctors in their own panel, so they know that for a particular type of treatment, particular procedure, maybe 2 days or 3 days hospitalization is sufficient. If the hospital is asking for a 6 days or 7 days LOS, then in that case, they need to step in to see that whether it is actually justified, if there is any complication,
Correct.
or it is a straightforward case.
So will you suggest that in certain cases,
Yes, sir.
like we can also take care, and if we find that there is no need actually in normal course for a particular process to be admitted,
Mhm.
but there is a advice from the doctor to be admitted, then we can request the medical practitioner to justify the
Yes, sir. In
admission.
such cases, actually, the TPA doctors, they do negotiate with the hospitals also.
Mhm.
They do negotiate and they try to make them understand. But of course, whatever.
So in advance also, like there are some cases, like you said, particular process may not need admission, but due to some other health condition, that admission is becoming necessary. So in that cases, it will be advisable that the same thing is explained in the prescription itself by the doctor, so that when the case is submitted for reimbursement, then TPAs will not raise those queries.
No, our TPAs do take, and sometimes if they come to us, we also try to step in and see that what is the requirement depending on the. Sometimes if it is a person with comorbidities or an advanced
Correct.
stage or even a small child, these are the cases where we do say that okay, even if you think that it might strictly going by the treatment protocol, it might not be necessary, but these are the extenuating factors which the doctor might need to observe that patient. So we allow.
So
Case to
one
case
is question is allowing, and second is while submitting the papers or while prescribing, we can request the doctor, medical practitioner, to explain this.
Explain it.
That he is recommending for admission because of the comorbidity.
Exactly.
Though the particular process may not need admission, but because of the comorbidity, it is required.
Yes, sir.
That proper prescription, I think, is going to obviate these
Many
types
of
of
these
situations.
Exactly.
The next query is related to, I think it's more of a suggestion that all the cancer cases and any other case should be taken into consideration without checking the patient's personal habits, past medical history, that is sometimes alcoholic or smoking habits. So I think you are going to respond.
The past history and medical requirements are mandatory required to establish the illness basically, but TPAs have been advised to strictly follow the policy term and conditions. For that, if some past history is required, they may have to ask for.
There is a specific exclusion of substance abuse and alcohol abuse. So no TPA can actually under any circumstances, and that will actually not even stand in the eye of law also. Such cases, but I hope we do not go to that extent for any case, but that is just that if when it is specifically excluded in policy terms and conditions, so such cases it is
I
difficult
think
to.
these types of situations are difficult to explain because suppose if a person had been alcoholic in the past, he was a very chronic case of alcoholism or he was a heavy smoker in the
Yes.
past, but since last 10-15 years he has given up those habits. So I mean, how to deal with these types of situations, because if you ask him to honestly respond, then he will say he was alcoholic, but the fact of the matter is that in last 10 years he has given up those habits. So how it's going to be excluded or included, I think these are slightly
Sir,
tricky
in
situations.
such cases, case to case basis, we do,
Yes.
both of us, we do adjudicate. And we in our company also, we have got MBBS doctors who have contacts with other specialists. So sometimes we do take their opinion that whether it is directly, even if the person has given up, say 10 days, 10 years, 15 years, 7 years. So what is the what is the likelihood of developing such complications? Accordingly, we take. On case to case basis, we do take a positive approach,
yes.
I would say.
As the carcinoma is a critical illness, all types of cases to be covered, irrespective of treatments. Cases like oral chemo also should be covered, irrespective of without domiciliary options. That is a suggestion.
The claims are processed strictly as per the policy terms and conditions which are dictated by the RFP. We are bound by the terms and conditions mentioned in the RFP, and the policy terms and conditions are very specific and are aligned with the RFP terms and conditions, and TPAs are processing the claim accordingly.
For the record, actually, oral chemo is covered on all bases,
Yeah.
domiciliary basis, OPD basis, daycare and inpatient. And recently in the new RFP, we have included the advanced treatment for the
Advanced treatment.
monoclonal
Yes,
antibody.
monoclonal.
So I think that these such complaints or anxieties, I think, have been addressed to a large extent by now.
In few of the cases, doctor confirmation may be obtained based on the symptoms observed. The disease may be in the initial stage, but in the test report, it is not confirmed. In such cases, the claim should be considered at least based on the doctor's certificate. Exercise.
Yes, sir. Again, I would say that the queries for investigation reports to support the diagnosis are very well are within the purview of the policy terms and conditions. In the policy, we have already listed out the documents that are required for in support of claims. And investigations are for the pre-operative investigations in surgical cases and in conservative cases also, to monitor the level of severity and in selection of line of treatment, these are necessary. But okay, if something is not, because actually if the reports are not there, how do we establish? How do we establish that a particular diagnosis is right or wrong, or what is the line of treatment that has to be followed?
The next query is, I think, because of the non-availability of the TPA in the month of October, which you have already explained. So I'll not go into that. I'll jump over to the next, another question. If the member is treated under operation procedures, any equipment, machinery purchased, imported, particularly for that procedure, should be considered.
So, whenever there are operational procedures and we get a bill for equipment or machinery purchased or any equipment used for that particular procedure, we strictly go as per policy terms and condition. If that procedure warrants that, the rate, then it is considered.
In few cases, it is observed that after final amount payable to the TPA website, there was another deduction stating customary charges. Such types of deductions should not take place, should not happen.
The deductions, as we have already explained earlier also, deductions are being made within the terms and conditions of the policy. Mr. Malhotra has already explained the reasonable and customary clause. But certainly we have advised the TPAs to look into this matter, that there should not be any confusion or controversy regarding the amount posted in the website or the message that goes to the TPA, and subsequently there should not be another deduction. Whatever deductions are to be made, they should be made at one go, and there should be a transparency in the communication to the client.
The next advice pertains to us to increase the room rent limit. I'll jump over to the next one, which directly relates to the insurance company. Hospitalization less than 24 hours to be considered also.
So in the policy, daycare coverage is already there. Any change or provision in the condition of policy need to be taken up during the next bipartite by the committee. We abide by that, sir.
The next suggestion, again, probably you have responded many a times, that the TPA should not raise queries in piecemeals. There should be a one go query, so that they can address it properly and the turnaround time can be improved.
So the TPAs, as we have explained, the TPAs are asking for the mandatory documents which have already been listed in the policy. Sometimes the further requirements are raised only if the submitted documents are not establishing the case properly, if there is an inadequacy or incompletion.
There are many cases which have been settled during the tenure of Mrs. FHPL TPA, but the cases with same diagnosis are rejected by the Safeway TPA. When the new TPA comes in, they have got their own sets of settlement rules. So that leads to some sort of dissatisfaction among the insured people.
We will request the member bank to kindly share such list of the claims, which we will review and get it resolved.
You have to assure here that you will not claim back the earlier settlement, which we have done.
Then
That should
we
not
have to go back to the merit of the claim, sir.
Yes.
If the earlier claim has been wrongly allowed and all that, then we will have no other option.
So, in fact, the suggestion is that there should be consistency in the settlement of the claims. It should not be left to the interpretation or of
TPS.
individual TPA. There should be consistency. So that ambiguity should have been avoided.
We have been striving for that, but there can be some stray
Correct.
cases here and there.
A few claims of earlier policy are pending for submission by staff members are to be allowed for submission as a special case.
Sir, we would assure the member bank that the matter has already been taken up with FHPL and has been resolved. They can check with the individual claimants at their end.
So, thank you.
So you are permitting them to resubmit, or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We had given, because we took like the reasons were explained to us. Then we said that okay. So we have resolved.
We have observed in many cases deductions in cashless claims and also delay in final authorization. These things have to be taken care and delay should be avoided. That's a suggestion. I think you have responded. Maternity coverage amount should be increased as most of the hospitals are charging at higher rates. Also, pre and post hospitalization should be considered in maternity cases that we have noted, and because at present they go by the insurance company settle the claims as per the extent RFP and the negotiated settlement. So it's subject to the negotiated settlement itself, and thereafter only it can be considered. Provision to be made for submission of documents online and approval of bills up to 2,000 without submission of hard copies for claim process. I think you have
Yes, sir. We have deliberated.
yeah,
on
deliberated
this, at the very outset. We can take a look.
But can you throw some light on this? For example, 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees. A number of cases, which normally fall within this limit.
So our average outgo on IPD cases is about 35,000. On IPD cases. Domiciliary, it can be anything. It starts from 80 rupees to even 3 lakh, depending on the cost of medicines that are.
So suppose if you do this like software, based on the soft copies.
Yes, sir.
Like how many percentage of cases will fall in this? Just get an idea.
So 10 to 15%
10 to
certainly
15%
cases. Will be addressed.
You can think of some
Yes,
higher limit
yes,
than
yes.
2,000.
2,000 usually.
6,000 is too small.
Too small.
It will be only some diabetes and hypertension.
Yeah, it should be at least 10,000.
Yeah.
You can consider.
Yes, certainly, sir.
Here your regular, policy holders. So nobody will mischief. You can say that soft copy can be basis for settlement, but thereafter they can send the hard copy subsequently.
If at all it is required or some there is some audit requirement,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
they
sir.
will have to submit
Yes, sir. Those are the
that
things-
declaration.
Sample cases you can take.
Yes, sir. We have to see because that will be a major shift in our own procedural matters.
Yes,
So it has to stand the scrutiny of audit
Yeah.
also.
correct.
So accordingly,
Yeah,
but this is certainly keeping with times.
Mhm.
We can certainly look into it.
Okay.
Great. The next again is a suggestion. Claims should be considered if the member is taking treatment from both allopathy, Ayurvedic, homeopathy, and means crosspathy.
Crosspathy is not allowed in any of the health policy.
Okay. So they will have to adopt a
One
particular
line.
line of
Single.
treatment.
Yes.
But generally you permit in normal policies.
No.
It's not permitted.
Crosspathy is not allowed.
Not permitted. Okay.
Mostly or by all the insurance companies.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The same practice.
Uniform.
Standard.
Standard.
So the next, seeking medical shop GST number may be re-looked into. Since a business whose aggregate turnover in a financial year doesn't exceed rupees 40 lakh, not mandatorily register under GST. So
I'd like to clarify that we have already issued necessary instructions to the TPAs that for shops who declare that they are not, whose turnover does not reach up to 40 lakh, So the shop owners can give a declaration at the back of the bill itself, and we are honoring those
Okay.
cases.
Okay. That's quite a positive gesture. I think that is going to redress this particular issue. The next query is from a member bank. The premium amount is showing an upward trend, and this we have already explained in one of the previous queries. I will jump over to the next question. Finalization of the TPA happens on the last moment. That you have also responded. So the insurance company has assured that they will be taking care of the allocation of the TPA in future, well in time, so that there is no inconvenience to the insured people. There is another suggestion. The e-health ID card, physical health ID card, premium receipt, list of cashless network hospital, and policy wording documents are not shared on time by the TPA. This year, it has been shared with our retirees almost 2 months after policy got renewed, which leads to escalation to our senior management.
I think so that there was some challenges, but the issue stands resolved and noted for future. Right? So,
Actually, sir, in this case, I would say for this particular bank, they had some issues. They were citing some challenges in changing their vendor. They said that they had a long validation process, almost 2-3 months long validation process for changing a vendor in their own system. But last year we had accommodated them for this reason, but this year it was a bit difficult since the change was mandated by our board. So we had our own problem in approaching the board again for addressing for making this exception for one bank. So that's why we had a long dialogue. So that issue between bank HR and our end also to resolve, it took about a month.
No.
So
even on their request, we further took up the matter with the corporate management.
But they said that once we have decided the same thing, they said that if we make an exception for one bank, then everyone will cite some discomfort or challenge, then it will be very difficult. So that's why that negotiation took about a month, not only from our end.
So this particular inconvenience was only with respect to a particular brand,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
not others.
No.
And we had tried to take it up and accommodate, but since our board decided
And we
that
shared with them that there may be some challenge because there may be a delay. They agreed for the delay, but they want us to take the matter again with the board and the corporate management for retaining the earlier TPA only.
And the next query is again regarding the reimbursement of the claim during a particular period when there was a transition phase due to change of the TPA. So it has already been responded. So I will jump over to the next query, that proper settlement in case of cataract cases. I think there should be a proper and clear guidelines what is going to be how is the cataract case, because these are the most common claims from the bankers. So how you are going to respond that there should be a proper settlement process for cataract cases. The amount, and there should be uniformity. Some of the TPAs are settling at a particular level, some are allowing higher amount also. So this has caused some heartburn among the members.
All the cataract cases basically are dealt as per network packaging or by applying the customary and reasonable clause. The network packages are the PPN rates. If it is a PPN city, the PPN rates, whichever are applicable are there, are the benchmark. And if it is a non-PPN city, the hospital with the same type of infrastructure into that geographical area, they take the average of 3 hospitals and based on then they settle the claims.
The next two queries are related to the deductions and rejections. So they have said that both of them are quite high. The deductions are quite high and the rejections are also quite high.
So as we have already responded, the deductions and rejections, they are being done strictly as per terms and conditions of the policy. And I will add that sometimes if a grievance is raised, then we do step in and we go through the entire case, and on merit, depending on the merits of the case, sometimes we allow payment of deducted amount if we find that it is unjustified. And if the rejection is found unjustified due to deficiency of document or maybe clarity of understanding, so in that case we step in and they are reopened and again paid.
From the same member, there are two queries which you have already responded. One is related to the piecemeal queries being raised by the TPA, and another the GST bill. So you have responded.
Yes.
But this one suggestion that the bank has given is related to the simplification of the claim form for the domiciliary. Is not a simplified claim form is not accepted. So probably they might have tried to simplify or deviate from the standard claim form. Whether it's acceptable by the insurance company or IDI or not, that will request you to respond.
Claim form for the domiciliary claim is, as of now, is not accepted because this has been designed by IRDA and we have to maintain that standardization.
The next is again related to the delay in the payment after settlement of the claim. It has been responded to by you. Rejections of the cashless claims, again it has been responded. The next is from another member bank. It is related to since the bank is a south-based bank. That's a very typical query, and the similar query has been raised by a north-based bank also, and it is regarding the allocation of the TPA. A TPA which has a network more prevalent in the south has been allocated a north-based bank, and a north-based TPA has been allocated the south-based bank. So they took their own time in settling in servicing this policy. So that how we are going to respond, so that it doesn't recur in the future also.
So we have noted, and we do agree that there might have been some initial hiccups in settling down, as we say. But for this particular bank, I would say the South-based bank, the TPA support is available at their branch offices at Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Kochi. And help desk facility is also functional at the HO of the particular bank. For physical meetings at the branch, the branch in charge, they are visiting the head office very regularly, and all other agenda is getting discussed through the VCs. There is a dedicated grievance officer who is available 24/7 to support the HR at all times. And the TPA has also constituted some WhatsApp groups with all members of the HR department to look after the servicing of the policy as well as support the members.
There is one suggestion that clause 2.44 on the reasonable and customary charges, can it be further elaborated or explained, Malhotra sir? The reasonable and customary charges is quite a vague explanation. So how it can be?
Reasonable charges means the charges for services or supplies, which are the standard charges for the specific provider and consistent with the prevailing charges in that geographical area for identical or similar services, taking into account the nature of the illness or inquiry involved.
Okay. It continues to be
We understood.
Whenever we're taking any one particular arrangement in one hospital, if it is a PPN city, whatever, if that is a PPN package or procedure, that becomes a benchmark. The second one is in non-PPN city, if the same procedure and ailment, if there is a package of procedure, if the hospital of the same infrastructure in that particular geographical area, they take the average of 3 hospitals.
So I would say that it is like an apple to apple comparison. We will not I'm just saying off the cuff some names. Say a neighborhood Shreya Eye Hospital, the charges of cataract surgery there, we will not be comparing to PD Indija. So this is the thing. So say if there is a small eye hospital, say with 10 bed facility or no bed facility, it is only like hospitalization or admission for a few hours for specialized surgery. So those kind of hospitals, depending on their infrastructure and the expertise of the doctor, expertise and experience, expertise we cannot put a benchmark, but of course, experience in the industry of the doctors who are running that particular provider. So they get compared and then the charges are accordingly decided. We will certainly not compare Hindu-Pidu, Hinduja or Leelavati with the neighborhood hospital,
Nothing
however
more.
good or bad that might be. So that's how it is an apple-to-apple comparison and accordingly. And usually for IBA cases, what we are doing that if one particular hospital from where the bill has originated, they are charging slightly higher than the 3 hospitals which we are comparing. So we give the higher amount only. We're not bringing it down to the lower amount. Then we, in that case, if the average comes out to say 34,000, and if the hospital has started 38,000, then we allow. It's only a matter of 4,000. Of course, if it's a very high amount from a small hospital, which does not compare, then in that case there might be deductions.
Okay, now another question linked to this is,
Yes.
how do you do that? Like there is a standard software developed for this, or it is left to the judgment of the particular person who is attending to that particular claim?
No, we collect the SOCs, the standard charges of all the hospitals of the similar infrastructure and expertise, as I said. So the standard charges are collected and then compared. Only then it is not just a matter of conjecture or hearsay or experience. Proper SOCs are collected, schedule of charges from those hospitals, room charges, doctor's charges, and infrastructure, what is there.
Actually, this is something where transparency is missing.
Yes, sir. We do
So that is
understand.
why there is a pain actually,
We do understand.
Very
it is
this type of
it's difficult to explain, but since this is a mandated guideline from the regulator, we are not at liberty to do away with it.
So long as the standardization of the
Exactly.
process is missing, it's going to prevail.
So some sort of benchmark has to be there. Otherwise, this becomes an open market and they may charge any amount. Something to just curtail out that, okay, for similar procedure, if you go to any other hospital of the same infrastructure, so that type of some limitation or benchmark has to be there.
So
Otherwise, there may be entirely things will go hayway.
That's a good thing. We have understood. Unless and until the hospitals or the processes are brought under some sort of regulation,
Yes, sir.
this confusion is going to
Yes, sir.
remain for some time. Let us hope that this
Yes, sir. In the
happens as early as
field
possible.
of health insurance,
Correct.
this is the problem. The insurer, the insured, and the TPAs, we are trying to regulate the market, means bring a semblance of order. Okay, insurer is giving a policy with the terms and conditions. Insurers also, the insured people, they also by and large try to abide. They understand the terms and conditions and they try to abide as per the benefits that are available. TPAs are also bound by the terms and conditions of the policy. But the fourth player in this entire game
It's totally open.
so, like, we do not have a say.
Correct.
We do not have a say in that. So, that is why some dissatisfaction or gaps are there in the service delivery, I would say.
The next query of the same bank is related to the network hospitals. Network hospitals under the present TPA, are very less. So again, that care has got to be taken, and this discomfort arises only because of the lack of the network of the particular TPA in that southern region particularly. So once it is addressed and
So we have already mentioned that we can arrange, again ask them to have a meeting with the respective TPA, with the respective bank's HR.
correct.
And they can share the list of the hospital which they want immediately to be taken on board.
Correct.
We will also monitor that, and till then, if there are certain issues and some hospitalization in non-network hospital, we will honor the cashless into that.
And another suggestion is that many of the hospitals which have been brought in their network do not allow the cashless facility. So that's some sort of a serious concern that the banks which the hospitals which are there in the network, why they cannot allow this cashless facility?
Normally it does not happen, but sometimes actually what happens that the hospitals also have their own mindset that okay, if I give cashless then my payment will be stuck for 1 month, whereas for reimbursement I am getting my payment upfront, and after that if the claim is admissible, the person will get the reimbursement from the insurance company any which ways, maybe in 15 days, 2 months. That is their lookout, but the hospital is more concerned about their own cash flow. So that's why sometimes
when you bring them into your network,
yes, sir.
I think there is something MOU is signed.
Yes, sir.
So is it not a mandatory
Yes,
condition?
sir. It is binding. It is mandatory.
So in case, if it is in the network and still the hospital is insisting for cash deposit, or if they are not accepting the cashless treatment, is there any kind of
yes, sir,
penal clause to be?
So, penal clause is not there. Then we take them out from we put them on, first we put on watch list. And because, of course, the TPA of the hospital also, if they are assured of a certain number of footfall, then in that case, if they are put on watch list, then they come back. Or sometimes if negotiations do not work and they continue to harass, then we take them out of.
So our request will be to all the policyholders or ex-staff members or family members that in such cases, please do not hesitate to inform NICL.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Bring it to the notice of NICL and TPS so that they can take the corrective action for such hospitals.
We have already instructed the TPAs wherever these type of cases are there. If it is a PPN hospital, they escalate and complain to the PPN committee for further action. If it is a network hospital, they do negotiate with them and take corrective measures so that the cashless is allowed and it should not happen in future.
The next query, I think the bank is ready with some proof that you have just now asked for. And they say that due to lower network hospitals, employees, retirees are forced to shell out amount for hospitalization. And TPA is raising unnecessary queries and delay the settlement of the claims. And however, the bills are 100% genuine, and they say that they are having sufficient proof in this regard. So I will request you to just get in touch with this particular member bank for getting those evidences and redressal of this particular grievance. The next is related to the turnaround time of the cashless claims, and this particular member bank suggests that this TAT should definitely improve. And this is mainly, they suggest, is because of the queries being raised by the TPA in piecemeals that delays the entire. And what will happen? The TPA will raise the query and the TAT will start from the point of time from where
the submission of final papers.
So but the suffering is on the part of the insured person. He will definitely hold some grudges that he had been requesting me to run from pillar to post and for 3-4 months. But the TPA will say the TAT starts from this point and they have maintained the TAT. So that is some sort of gray area, shady area that requires to be properly addressed.
So we have taken this matter up with the TPA and they have confirmed that they are monitoring the movement. And within, less than 2 hours, the cashless authorization is being given. And they have also created a separate WhatsApp group, cashless group, which the bank HR is also able to track. And reimbursement also delay, there was a delay, but of course now the claims are being processed in 3 to 4 days of receipt of the last document.
Regarding reimbursement of the claims, they have observed that there is a delay in the lodgement of the claim at the TPA level due to change in the servicing bank. I think it has already been responded. There is again a complaint regarding reimbursement of the claim pickup from the zonal offices by the courier companies instead of collection by the TPA employees. That's a sort of, I think, arrangement that should be looked into.
The TPA has implemented the document pickup from over 100 locations for this member bank. Once in a week, they get collected. To prevent any escalation, they track the status of document pickup and share that with the HR team of all zonal offices. Additionally, they have also created a WhatsApp group for the zonal HRs to handle such queries, grievances, and documents pickup status.
The next query is again related to the payment of claims by the insurance company. The TAT, they say, is more than 15 days. So we have just tried to drill down to the reasons why this TAT confusion is there. Somebody can claim that the TAT, they have maintained the TAT of say 24 hours or 48 hours, but
Yes, sir.
the other person would be viewing it as if it is getting delayed for no reason. So this definitely there should be some.
Yes, sir, we are monitoring as we have already explained earlier also. And for this particular bank, we will once again take up and on real-time basis, we'll try to see that what is the status, and if required, we'll also get back to the bank HR. And actually, for this particular bank, Mr. Malhotra had visited with our DGM sir and our GM, and they have expressed their satisfaction.
Great.
As of now.
The next suggestion is related to the operational matter, and they suggest that more front desk executives are required at the TPA level for addressing the concern after switchover. Currently, only 6 executives are handling the pan-India escalations. So that is, I think, another issue that
the TPA has already resolved. They have given out the required manpower. They have confirmed it also.
So now gradually we are coming to an end of the Q&A session. Last member bank, they again have questioned the turnaround time not being maintained for cashless approval, which you have already responded. You can respond to the particular member bank in person, citing all the reasons. They again have said the same thing that the claims are not processed within the turnaround time. They have raised the issue of manpower and SPOC issues. So, particularly this aspect, how you are going to respond to this member bank regarding the manpower and SPOC.
In TPA, do you have any parameter that if based on this number of cases, they need to have resources in their office?
Minimum sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
The infrastructure.
Yes, sir. There are parameters. There are parameters depending on the volume, how many resources they have to put for processing. Overall, actually, this is, and of course, for IBA policies, we have advised all the TPAs to have dedicated resources and dedicated, IBA cell kind of a thing with end-to-end processing, right from receiving the intimation, right from issuing the cards and welcome kit and documents, then receiving intimations, loading, processing, raising queries, and then coordinating with the bank HR. So for that, we have.
So the basic question was, are you ensuring that resource allocation is optimized? Like
Yes.
always have
So actually, some banks you will find that some banks are south-based and all that. Geographically, depending upon the requirement, TPA has been instructed to provide the proper infrastructure to maintain their services.
If required, they have set up new offices.
Yeah.
Like with this reallocation, the TPAs have set up new offices, support offices, so that immediate issues, the local issues, and immediately whatever firefighting, as we may say, has to be done on time, and there are no gaps.
I think this needs close monitoring.
Yes.
From your side also.
Yes, sir.
They should have enough resources
Yes,
to attend to these kind of cases.
So for manpower and SPOC issues for this particular bank, the TPA has deputed 78 resources across India to cater to all the regional offices and their zonal offices at various locations, and a detailed relationship matrix with email IDs and contact numbers have been shared, and the TPA has shared, and we have also shared from our end. And there is a 4-member team which is visiting the head office on regular basis to sort out the issues. wherever there is something, and whatever on urgent basis or on a regular basis has to be done, they are doing. But anyway, I agree that this is a very continuous process which Mr. Malhotra and we are also continuously monitoring.
Next question, I think you have already addressed to, was regarding the data mismatch. Your mobile application was having some different data, and the bank had a different set of data. So that has been addressed by you. The next and last question that has been put and collected is related to the cashless denial in case of a particular cancer patient. A particular cancer center, HCG MSR Cancer Center, had probably denied the cashless facility to one of the employees. So I think you must have.
Yes, sir, that has also been addressed as of now.
With this, we have come to an end of this question and answer session. The webinar, the knowledge sharing webinar on this highly contentious and highly sensitive issue of health insurance policy that is in service to one of the great number of retirees as well as the employees. So I would like to sincerely thank the represented senior executives from NICL, Ms. Paromita Iyer and Mr. Atul Malhotra for sparing their valuable time in redressing to this particular issue. I would like to thank our Deputy Chief Executive Sri Gopal Bhagat sir.
Thank you, Sharma no, but here takeaways, just to sum up, you know, 2-3 points we'll expect reaction from NICL is threshold limit reimbursement basis, soft copies basis. I think you can work on that and come back on this. Second was clubbing of hospitals of all TPS. This we can work, if not 100%, to some extent this can be done.
In the larger centers.
Yes, it can be done. So I think we can look into this. And then third is common mistakes or deficiencies in filing of the claims. If we can get a list on that, we can host it on our website so that people, while filing that claim, they can take guidance from those and they can avoid those deficiencies. And another is the parameter for resources at TPA that I think you need to relook into that they have enough resources and it should be monitored closely. Now, as far as the claim position is concerned, I understand you are monitoring from your office that how many are pending for 3 months, 2 months, 1 month and all that. Is it possible? I do not know whether technologically it is possible or not. Will it be possible to share that with us on continuous basis? Can we reflect it on our web portal? So, a kind of transparency with the policyholders. You can think over this. I will not expect it. You can look into this, whether it is practically possible. If possible, this will give us a kind of transparency and, our policyholders will be more happy to see that the percentage of claims pending beyond the turnaround time, the prescribed turnaround are very less.
Yes,
that can be.
Sure, sir. We'll certainly look into
it. In fact, one thing I would like to suggest that you might be aware of the common mistakes that are being committed by the insured persons while claiming. So if we list out those common mistakes, then we can circulate among the member banks so that they are not repeated. The mistakes should not be repeated. Same thing can be
on the web portal and people will be guided by that.
Will be guided and they will avoid once it is
one sort of checklist.
Correct.
So I think suggested steps. I think with this we'll conclude the webinar on this. Thank you very much. Thanks to NICL executives and thanks to all the participants, viewers on this. Thank you very much. Stay healthy.
Thank you. Thanks you a lot. And I would like to thank my team members also, Mr. Shankaraman, Mr. Uttam, Ms. Krishna, and the technology service provider, our colleague, Mr. Anuj Upadhyay, Mr. Rahul. And I would like to thank all the participants who had been viewing and listening. Because of the technical snag, we could not stream live, but the recording is going to be made available thereafter, and the retirees and the participants can view it online. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you from National Insurance side also.